Rev up those skeletons, bones and ghouls. It's time for INDIEWEEN. It's that time of year where I show you a bunch of cool little indie games you can get all for the price of a single AAA title. And I'm feeling extra psychotic this year, in part due to the audacity of the big publishing companies deciding to charge us up to $80 for the bloated slop fests that they forced developers to produce instead of the fun, thoughtful games that made them all popular in the first place. We're shooting for an $80 total this year, and I've been keeping my nose to the ground to find all the good stuff at all the good prices. To kick things off at a positively dainty, by comparison, $11.99, we've got Zero Protocol, which among other things is a spooky homage to the original System Shock game, featuring first-person 2D sprites in a 3D world, and inventory and puzzles and all that good stuff very much in the vein of Resident Evil. You play as the head of security for a remote research facility way out in the Antarctic, where, as you'd expect in a game like this, something has gone very, very wrong. Don't forget to take your pills! So as for the gameplay, it's a first-person survival horror. Levels are relatively small and feature a lot of locked-off rooms that you're going to need to find a way into to get to the next area with a lot of locked-off rooms, until you're finally out of this facility. There will be spookies. As far as I can tell, you only get 2 primary weapons in the main game, and thankfully, ammunition is not counted as an inventory slot because those are very limited. There's not exactly a lot of variety in the enemies, but the enemies that you come across in the facility definitely get the job done. Each base level humanoid is tanky enough, and the spiders are fast enough that any more than one of them is a serious threat. There's other things too. Things that you can't fight, but you can only hope you notice in time and then get the hell away before they mulch your HP pool. When you're not shooting or being accosted by the former residents of the facility, you're going to be hunting for keys and solving puzzles. Sometimes you'll be solving puzzles to get a key, and oftentimes a key is an access code to another room or some object that is essentially a key. You know how this works. Something I very much appreciate about Zero Protocol is that you're given a simple camera tool that works both in and out of menus. Sometimes, the necessary information to solve a puzzle will be in another room, or you have some sort of visual pattern that you need to remember and then recreate somewhere else, and then rather than having to run back and forth or do what I had to do in another game later on this INDIEWEEN, which was hit the print screen key and come back to it later, once you know what bit of information you need to have handy to solve a puzzle, you can just use your in-game camera to snap a picture of it, and that picture will always be available to you in the menu until you take a new one. That is great. I love it. I wish more games would do stuff like this because off the top of my head, the only games I can think of that do this are just Switch 1 titles like Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild. I'm sure there are other games that do it, but it needs to be done more so that I can think of more right off the noggin, you know? Puzzles make you use your thinking brain. And it might take a second for you to parse it out, but it's never to the point where you're just feeling like you're having your time wasted or feeling like, oh, I need to go find a walkthrough. I am pleased to confirm that the sliding tile puzzle of fuck you player, go waste 15 minutes of your life does not make an appearance in Zero Protocol. There's one last major mechanic in Zero Protocol: sanity. Sanity is fairly straightforward compared to other games that have a sanity mechanic in them, when here it's just a number right next to your health pool, and when you see unsettling stuff or spend too long in the dark, number go down. When number goes down, things get freakier, and stuff starts happening. Good thing that facility planned for this, and there are plenty of special pills just lying around that will restore your sanity enough to make the freaky things go away. But something's off. There's a part in the tutorial of this game where there's no clear way to get into a certain room, and you end up just running in circles as your sanity runs down. And eventually, when you hit a certain threshold of low sanity, the code appears on the walls in whatever this red stuff is, and then you can proceed. Whatever is creeping into your mind is also trying to guide you somewhere, but we're not into story stuff yet. While low sanity is certainly dangerous, there are certain lore snippets that you can only find if you keep your sanity low enough to perceive them. That's going to be a tough call to make though. Time for the first of many meal prep recipes this INDIEWEEN. On top of finding a bunch of indie games to stick it to the AAA slot machine, I'm also sticking it to all those meal delivery services that are trying to gaslight everyone into thinking that you're just a dumb little bab who can't be trusted to prepare their own food, let alone be near a stove, by doing a meal prep recipe with each of the INDIEWEEN videos and posting the full details, including recipe and nutrition facts, on the Patreon for free for everyone. Some of these, like the one we're doing today, a shrimp alfredo, are designed not too much to be the healthiest possible thing, since not everyone is tracking their macros, but instead intended to be fairly easy to do. Like this pasta shrimp alfredo. It's really easy. There'll be healthier stuff and more high protein stuff along the way, but my goal for this spooky season is to give you a variety of cost-effective recipes that come from the holy trinity of primary heat sources: the stovetop, the oven, and the slow cooker. We're going to start things out on the stovetop by getting a large stock pot full of water and putting it on the heat with 2 boxes of your preferred short pasta at the ready. Boiling pasta is fairly simple, which is why this part of the cooking segment was mostly me explaining the MO of INDIEWEEN's cooking segment meal prep extravaganza. Now how about some shrimp, because we're doing a shrimp alfredo? Get a whole bag from Costco, and if it isn't thawed out yet, you can dump them into a large bowl and run cool water over them for about 5 minutes and they'll be good and thawed. If you end up doing this, make sure to have some extra paper towels lining the baking sheet to let excess moisture drain off. And don't forget to, regardless of if you froze them or not, add a little bit of salt over the top of them for a while to help get the excess moisture on the inside of the shrimp. Give that 10 to 15 minutes to let the salt do salt things, and then transfer the shrimpies into a medium-sized bowl. We're going to add some olive oil and a healthy shaking of Italian bread seasoning, which is a good fit for these little guys. And yeah, this stuff is literally the stuff they add to the oil at somewhat fancy Italian restaurants. You can just buy it by the liter at the restaurant supply store. Mix slightly to where all the shrimp are coated in both oil and seasoning, and then we're going to cook them right up. Now we're going to do this in the air fryer, and get this, cook the shrimp according to the guidelines that came with our air fryer. For me, this is 2 batches at a lower setting so I don't overcook them, but your settings will vary. Remember that when shrimp are cooked, C is for cooked, O is for overcooked. Don't have an air fryer? It's cool. Just put the shrimp onto a parchment-lined baking sheet and cook for 20 minutes at 350 Freedom heat units or 175 Funny Baguette units, depending on your region. You can also crank that up to 400 degrees of Freedom heat units or 205 Funny Baguette units for 20 minutes if you, say, have other things in the oven with the shrimp and you want to be sure, but 350 should usually do the trick. Once they're done, set the shrimps aside and get ready to put it all together. We're gonna get this all together by first adding our Alfredo sauce cans into a high-walled saucepan on a very low heat. I guess if you really want, you can make your own Alfredo from scratch, but this is meant to be easy to prepare so that you can prep other stuff alongside it to fill up your fridge good. Now there are 2 ways that we can accent the sauce, which I'm gonna leave up to you. You can either do what I'm doing and heat up some mixed veggies by the bag's instructions and then adding that into your sauce, or you can add in a big old thing of baby spinach into the sauce after giving it a little wash. If you're gonna do the mixed veggies though, like I do, make sure that you aren't running an electric oven, an air fryer, the microwave, and a ring light all at the same time. Your house's circuits will not like that. Oh no! By now, the pasta should be good and done, so do yourself a favor and use a heat-safe measuring cup to take a hefty amount of starchy pasta water to set aside before draining the pasta. You usually only need a little, but we're making many portions here, so we need more. Add the starchy water into the sauce, drain your pasta, and then add everything back into the big pot that you were boiling the pasta in. Pasta, shrimp, sauce, veggies, everything. Give this a good stirring for a couple minutes and then give it about 5 minutes to rest and allow the pasta to absorb the sauce, and then start portioning it out into about 10 to 12 servings. I like to do about 1.5 to 2 cups of finished pasta per container, and that usually becomes 10 to 12. Oh, and one last thing. I am so happy I was actually making this another time more recently after this. I totally spaced on this while filming it, but the very last thing you need to do to our shrimp Alfredo is once the sauce has had a chance to absorb into the pasta and all the flavors get to know each other, only after that, add a healthy amount of lemon juice to the whole thing and stir it in some more. It really helps lighten up the flavor and just general, it's like that wow factor, that last thing you need. I'm so glad I remembered this because this is a very important part of the step. I was just doing a lot all at the once when I was filming this the first time. Do not forget to add the lemon juice. Remember to let all of these cool off for at least a little while before adding them into your fridge, and then waiting a good few hours for them to get cold before putting them in your freezer. You do not want to add a lot of heat suddenly to your freezer, and that's going to thaw out a bunch of stuff, including things like ice cream, which you really don't want thawing. Keep only what you're immediately going to eat inside of the fridge, and then whenever you eat one portion, take another portion out of the freezer and add it into the fridge to thaw out by the time you're ready to eat it again. Now, I usually have recipes up for members only on Patreon, but like I was saying, this time around I have the full recipe and standalone cooking videos up on the Patreon for free. For everyone. Because I am genuinely dedicated to convincing all of you that you too can indeed meal prep and don't need to spend a ton of money on a monthly service to do it for you. How about we cut out the middleman, and rather than having to sign up for a service that's going to cost you a bunch of money to make me a little bit of money, if you really feel like it and you don't have to do this, you can just go right over to patreon.com and agree to give me whatever money you feel you're comfortable giving me. Thank you all so much for this. And whether or not anyone pledges, these are all going to be free for everyone. Now let's get back to Zero Protocol. It's time for the Spookies. Zero Protocol starts out strong with a lot of really tense atmosphere before you enter any sort of enemy territory, and then the enemies are drip fed to you slow enough that encountering them stays scary. There's no scenario where they just throw a ton of dudes at you and you end up getting numbed to the encounter. There's not a lot of variety to what you're going up against, but that's made up for with how you're never in an area where you have an easy means of escape and ammo is always going to be scarce. There's a lot of claustrophobic hallways, mystery doors leading into dead ends that are more than likely traps, and blind corners to be had in Zero Protocol, which keeps the tension high for the duration of the game. And then there's that sanity. We talked about sanity a little during the gameplay segment, but we'll talk a little more about it here because as far as the spookies go, the sanity not only gives an edge of anxiety as you're always watching it tick down and seeing weird stuff start to happen. What the heck are these symbols appearing on the walls? Am I getting more enemies from this? Also, what the hell are those notes that are only appearing when I have low sanity? Are these real? Are these telling me the truth? Whatever they are, they're more than enough to keep me rationing my pills so I can get to the admin with most of my mind intact. Unfortunately, while most of the game is pretty good on the spookies, at times it does get a little reliant on jump scares. They'll still get you because they're spaced out well enough, but towards the middle to late game, there's going to be enough moments where you go, something is totally going to sneak up behind me once I go in here, and then exactly that happens, and it happens enough for you to notice that it's happening. You could argue that it's not overtly jump scaring, as the game tells you early on exactly what to look for when it comes to baddies spawning in when they're not immediately active, but it doesn't change what's happening. It's a very small game though, so I'm willing to give that a little bit of leeway. Let's take a sec to dip our toes into the story. Zero Protocol has you playing as the head of security for a very special research facility out in Antarctica. Like, really, really special. It might be the crash site of a UFO, or some sort of ancient civilization, or something like that. We're not quite sure. We just know we gotta figure out what it does. You start the game by going to take the interview to get the job, but then... Oh, this isn't good. You wake up in a hospital bed after suffering some sort of trauma that put you out, and something here is very, very wrong. I think this is our problem based on our job description. A lot of stuff is going on right now, and we get some messages on a nearby computer from someone trying to help us, saying that we need to get to admin and finish the steps in the Zero Protocol. That's going to be easier said than done though, because the entire base is in a state of extreme disrepair from whatever's going on, and almost everyone in it is now choosing violence. Better start solving those puzzles. There's a lot of stuff that's unexpected inside of this facility. You know what else is unexpected? A second cooking segment. No one can stop me in my crusade to show the masses how meal prep works. So we're gonna do some breakfast egg bites this time around, which is basically me going, hey, these things at Starbucks feel pretty pricey. I'm gonna make them better, cheaper, and tastier. And I did exactly that. I'm gonna do these in 3 different variants to show you here that not only are there options for how you wanna do it, but also it's fairly easy to mix and match these flavors to shake things up during the week. The base of the egg bites is, well, eggs. What we're gonna do here is start with a dozen eggs and 2 pint-sized containers of egg whites, which you can get in the Costco super cheap in 6-packs. Mix it all together in a large bowl. If that seems like a lot, don't worry. You can easily just halve the amount and still yield plenty of egg bites. Whisk them together and do not add any salt. The other ingredients we're going to add into these eggs are salty enough to where the egg mixture itself is just going to like sap the salt from them, and if we add any more, it's going to be overpowering. Get the oven heating up to 400 degrees of freedom heat units, or just a smidge over 200 at 205 funny baguette units. Spray down a cupcake tray and let's get filling. Now there are 3 different fillings we're going to do here, each of which has a base and cheese and then something to give it some more taste. The first is going to be ham and Swiss, which is a classic breakfast combination. Also, as a note here, you can get this cheese annihilator from Costco for about 25 bucks, but you absolutely do not need it. A plain old cheese grater works fine. Regardless of how you shred your cheese, make sure you have enough cheese for about 1/2 of an ounce per egg bite and distribute it into each cup after you spray it down. You don't want this stuff sticking. Now take the ham of your choice, cut it up into itty bitty squares, and distribute it among the cups. Second is bacon and cheddar, which is the same thing for the cheese, except now it's cheddar instead of Swiss, and about a strip of bacon per egg bite. I like to do these by making the bacon in the air fryer to get out the excess grease, but you can do it in the oven or on a pan, however you like to do it. Whatever you do to it, dice it into fine bits, mix it all together, and then distribute it evenly. Finally, for a vegetarian option, we've got mushroom and Swiss, which you guessed it, grate the cheese, and finally dice the mushrooms to distribute them evenly into your cups. Now what about the eggs we mixed up earlier? Don't worry, that's the last step. Pour your egg mix from the bowl into a large measuring cup for ease of filling, and then let's get started. You'll notice, if you've got a big measuring cup that fits almost all the liquid, that there's just enough liquid total to put about 1 to 1.5 ounces of egg liquid into each cup, which makes using one of those cocktail thingies perfect for portioning this out. Fill all the cups, throw it into the oven for 20 minutes, and once they're done, give them 5 minutes to rest before using a butter knife and tongs to get them out, and then wrapping up anything you don't immediately eat in saran wrap so they keep in the fridge. Like I said before, all the INDIEWEEN recipes are free over on patreon.com/charlatanwonder, and what I forgot to tell you in the last cooking segment, or actually I think I did, I just ad-libbed it in, but whatever, is that I also have approximate nutrition facts for all the food prepped here, ready to go for you. I actually do use a lot of this stuff for my own meal prepping, and a few recipes you'll see this month are staples in my rotation. Now let's get back to the story. So you're gonna get all the way through the facility to get up to the admin wing to figure out how exactly you finish the Zero Protocol, and what the heck the Zero Protocol even is. Spoilers ahead. So depending on your actions, and if you remembered to take your pills, you're eventually going to find yourself in the part of the facility where Exis, the facility's supercomputer, is waiting for you. I swear I've seen her somewhere before. Turns out Exis was the one sending you weird messages over the email system and has been helping you all along the way. It also turns out that the facility was mothballed decades ago, as explained by how a lot of the emails on the facility are dated decades before some of the things happening in the lore notes happened, and how for some reason all the equipment has an insane amount of wear and tear on it, despite initially assuming this facility was relatively new. The head of research thought it was some BS though, and utilized something they had discovered from the mysterious structure: cloning. You are not the original you, nor is anyone else in the facility. Exis has been following the lead researcher's orders to clone all the original staff to keep things going. However, in order to make sure that the clones don't have memories that would make them realize they were clones, a few intentional defects needed to be put in, which had the side effect of giving the clones a much shorter shelf life than just alt humans. The Zero Protocol is whenever the clones start to deteriorate too much, we round them all up and recycle them with extreme prejudice. You get to admin and you're given a choice. Go through with the Zero Protocol or shift-delete Exis and try to escape the facility. But wait, there's 2 more potential endings and a whole other story path to take if you decided not to take your pills. But wait, there's even more! Recently, Zero Protocol received a pretty big update, which on top of some quality of life stuff like level select to make it easier to get all those endings, a 5th ending has been added too. That's a lot of replayability. My final thoughts on Zero Protocol are that it was a fun 5-hour survival horror game, and 5 hours is just for the single initial playthrough. There's 4, now 5 different endings to get, and multiple story paths depending on your choices in-game. It's really nice for a game that was made by essentially one person, with a bit of help here and there according to the credits, and I'm fine paying what I did for this game. I'm sure that there's a good number of you that know if Zero Protocol is exactly what you've been looking for already for this spooky season. Zero Protocol puts us on the board this INDIEWEEN at $11.99, which is about middle of the road for prices this INDIEWEEN. I don't have a freebie this year because, well, I have a lot of room to work with thanks to AAA pricing bloat. To give you all hints for what's coming up, the cheapest game this year, which is going to be the next video, is only $6.99, and the most expensive game is $19.99. There's going to be something for all budgets this year. Don't forget to like the video if you enjoyed it and leave a little comment about how you feel. It helps this video on its journey through YouTube. Also, don't forget to check if you're subscribed so you can see when the next INDIEWEEN game comes along, and also, I'm currently live on the Purple Place as this video premieres, where we're playing more spooky games this spooky month. Now let's sign off. Remember that no matter what you do, be it drawing, dancing, or solving puzzles in a broken down science facility, what you do should never be called content. It is art. Content is a word that in recent years has been twisted into a means to grind up all your skills, passions, and aspirations into a gray sludge meant for nothing more than to make a line go up. Art is sacred. Art is inalienably a reflection of its creator by the very act of its creation, and in no way do you deserve to be reduced to content. So get out there and fight for yourself by fighting against the contentification of everything. Stay saucy.
So I was setting up for a cooking segment, but the saucy boy just insists on sitting in this chair. Like, I was like gonna take all my stuff, like move the table and all that. But oh, are you too cool for chairs now? You were enjoying that chair. I can now put that chair somewhere else where I won't trip over it. Just too cool for chairs. All right, fine. Away with you. Go back to wherever you're planning on going. And now he must choose. Which room does he go? You're just defying me today. Everything I say. I talk about, oh, which room are you gonna go into? You just sit down in the hallway. The defiance of this lad. I can't believe you.